spend on this precious earth, my friend. You never know when it will be over. Every day you live to see, give praise to the Almighty. You never know when He'll call your number. Hey, if you see a man fall down, pick him up from off the ground. Remember that man could be your brother. Yes, you might fall down someday. Someone else might be right there to hand you a precious glass of water. I said to live nice with your neighbor. Live nice. Live nice. I said to live nice with your sister. Live nice. Live nice. Cause remember, naked we come, naked we go. We here today, run tomorrow. Swallow your pride, put hate aside, and live nice. Live nice. Live nice. Live nice. I said to live nice. Hey. I cry for the youths today. They seem to have lost their way, drifting from the good old time traditions. They seem to be at a loss, on a great collision course, messing up with drugs and ammunition. Hey, recalling the old time days when we used to romp and play. At your neighbor's house was always welcome. Whatever they cooked, you eat. Wherever night fell, you sleep. Children were respectful to their elders. I said to live nice with your neighbor. Live nice. Live nice. I said to live nice with your brother. Live nice. Live nice. Cause remember, naked we come, naked we go. We here today, run tomorrow. Swallow your pride, put it aside, and live nice. Live nice. Live nice. I said to live nice. Just live nice. Yeah. Ignorance and jealousy are pillars of treachery that leads on to bitterness and hatred. The longer you remain vexed, you never know what comes next. You might do something that's not so sacred. Hey, forgiving is hard to do. The things that some people do, your basic instinct is just to choke them. But anger is poisonous. It just is not good for us. It could lead to some serious heart problems. I said to live nice with your mama. Live nice. Live nice. I said to live nice with your poopa. Live nice. Live nice. Cause remember, naked we come, naked we go. We here today, run tomorrow. Swallow your pride, put it aside, and live nice. Live nice. People live nice. I said to live nice. Just live nice. Hey. How drastic the world has changed. Nothing is sacred again. Disrespect is now the new world order. Mr. Dollar Bill is king. Some men will do anything. Once the price is right, they'll sell their mother. Hey. Yet all is not lost, I say. If we take one step a day, we could make a little reparation. Nothing is impossible. Oh God, we need a miracle. Got to find this missing generation. I said to live nice with your neighbor. Live nice, live nice. I said to live nice with your daughter. Live nice, live nice. Cause remember, naked we come, naked we go. We here today, gone tomorrow. Swallow your pride, put hate aside, and live nice. Live nice, live nice. Say to live nice, live nice. Hey. Mommy, live nice. Order, order. Mr. Dollar Bill is king. Some men will do anything. Once the price is right, they'll sell the murder. Hey. Yet all is not lost, I say. If we take one step a day, we could make a little reparation. Nothing is impossible. Oh God, we need a miracle. Got to find this missing generation. I said to live nice with your neighbor. Live nice, live nice. I said to live nice with your daughter. Live nice, live nice. Cause remember, naked we come, naked we go. We here today, gone tomorrow. Swallow your pride, put hate aside, and live nice, live nice, live nice. Say to live nice, live nice. Hey. Mommy, live nice, live nice. Happy, live nice, live nice. Brother, live nice. Just live nice. People live nice. Yeah, we live nice. I said to live nice. Live nice. Mama, live nice. Cause we live nice. Auntie, live nice.
Live nice. The Rootsman, Live Nice. One of the haunting songs. Beautiful message. Live nice. Live nice. Live nice. Live nice. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Wednesday night, wherever you're joining us from, whether you're joining us from inside Guyana, or you're joining us from outside of Guyana. Good evening to those of you joining us from England, London, United Kingdom, Great Britain. Good night, good morning, because it's past midnight there now. Welcome to Politics 101. Those of you joining us from the wider Caribbean, welcome to our program tonight. Of course, those of you joining us from North America, United States, Canada, good evening to all of you. How are you doing up there in Canada? I hope it's beginning to get a little bit warm in Canada. How my friends there, Brian Moses and Pudding and Colin Burke and all these, all my compy. You know, I'm going my long time to say me compy bye. Good evening to you, Lionheart, who's joining us from Tampa, Florida. Welcome. My brother Wayne Caesar. Wayne, we are going to be on tomorrow night. Wayne Caesar is going to join us with the crew on tomorrow night instead of Friday night. Tomorrow night is going to be my big cast night. Plenty people, big. Good evening to you all. Good evening to you, countrywoman Denise Booker, Ian Harry. Welcome to you. Ian is joining us from Canada. Guyana has to be the most creative place in the world. You know, they don't say They don't they don't say ginger ale in Guyana. They said, "Buy give me a Canada Dry." It took me a little while. You know, I had stayed away from Guyana for I think about 8 years. I went back twice or so, or 3 times in 8 years. But after 8 years, I started to go back steady, go back, and then I hear the type of bounty. And I said, Jesus Christ, why they calling paper towel bounty? But people have a sense of brand. Caribbean people, we are very creative. We are very creative. Professor Nettleford said we haven't given the world leaning towers and skyscrapers. What we have given the world is our minds. Our minds. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to you, Michelle, Joseph. The young people say one of my besties, Michelle, Carl Miller. Good evening to you all. It's Wednesday. The watchword is unity. The watchword is unity. We have to find a way to unite. Mary Figuera. Mary Figuera. Mary is a trooper. Good evening to you, Mary. Good evening to you, Diane Yearwood. Corinne Day, Joyce Simpson. Good evening to all of you. And thanks to all of you who've been writing me and finding ways to connect with me and to express your appreciation for what we are doing, and we continue to do this kind of work. And so many of you have expressed your appreciation the last couple of weeks for our lessons in Creolese and in popular culture, folk music, and Kwekwe music, Nancy Story music. They all come from the same place. And somebody called me from Thailand, a Guyanese from Thailand. Robert, if you're listening tonight, Robert said he wants to know what my real qualification is. Is it in politics? Is it in anthropology? Is it in history? What? And I told him that I'm a student of Guyana. That you for him, politics is about everything. Everything. You have to be curious and keep your ears on the ground. Understand, you can't want to lead people and you don't understand their language, their emotion. And so therefore, yes, learning Kwekwe came naturally, learning those things, because you live in a community. And if you're going to communicate with the community, you have to communicate in a language that they understand. And so, yes, so thank all of you who have been showing your appreciation for the folk and the cultural interventions that we've been having. So many of you said some of the Kwekwe songs take you all way back. There is still in some of the communities, I know in our community, Buxton, they still play Kwekwe there, and to some extent it is there, but times have changed, and the culture itself undergoes changes, but the essence of it remains there. The essence of it remains there. Good evening to all of you. Good evening to you, Vibert White, Audrey Garraway. Good evening to all of you, and welcome. The watchword is unity, and we're going to talk about unity tonight because we have to have unity when you are up against the serpents. Unity is the watchword. Naso Vashti. Unity, no, unity. No, I saw the thing go. Right? We have to have unity. Unity is the watchword. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. One love. I'd like to see a world of unity, equality, yeah, throughout humanity. A world of peacefulness, happiness, and togetherness. I would like to see that day when love would come to stay. One love, one love. It would be happiness to see such a unity. Oh, yeah, yeah. One love, one love. Maybe it's a dream, yeah. Or maybe that's how it seems. It's my dream, yeah. It's my dream, my dream. L-O-V-E is not what it was meant to be. Oh no. L-O-V-E was meant to be the master key of peacefulness, happiness, and togetherness. I would like to see that day when love would come to stay. One love, one love. It would be happiness to see such sweet unity. Oh yeah, yeah. One love, one love. It's my dream, my dream. Love to the world, it's all that I can say. Deep, deep down in my soul, I would like to see that day, the day of peacefulness, happiness, and togetherness. I would like to see that day, when love would come to stay. One love, one love. It would be happiness to see such a unity. Oh yeah, yeah. One love, one love. It's my dream. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's my dream. I look around and all that I can see, yeah, hatred and confusion throughout humanity. No peacefulness, no happiness, no togetherness. But I would
would like to see that day when love would come to stay. One love, one love. It would be happiness to see such a unity. Oh yeah, yeah. One love, one love. It's my dream. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's my dream. One love, one love, one love, one love. It's my dream. It's my dream.
One love, one love, one love. The mighty shadow, Winston Bailey. One love. That the soul, Calypso soul, the soul, the soul of Calypso, soca, soul of Calypso, the fusion of American soul music, the soul, and Calypso. Just like how we have the raga soca, the fusion of reggae and soca, and then you have the chutney soca and all of that now. Soul, One Love. That song, I think, was written by Gregory Ballantyne, GB. And so many people have done versions of them, but I like Shadow's version. And David Rudd has a very good version of it too. One Love. The plea for love. The plea for love and unity is a plea that is so applicable to our existence as a Caribbean people, as an African people, as a Guyanese people. You could not come out of the circumstances that we have come from and not reach for unity and love. Not reach for unity and love. That is what it is, those things that have taken us through and have brought us to where we are. Without unity, without love, we would not be here today. We would not be here today. And so when I hear some people are talking about splitting up and crossover and all those things, I'm not in that. I'm not into that. I'm all for diversity. I'm all for diversity. But that diversity has to be grounded in unity. Not a sterile unity, not a slavish unity, but a very constructive unity, because we are the products of unity. We are. For those of us African people, we left Africa as different tribes, different ethnic groups. Congo, Akan, Koromanti, Igbo, Yoruba. We left. We left as different ethnicities, different tribes. And they very quickly, the condition of oppression, enslavement, forced upon us a unity. We became Mati. We were on that ship, those ships as Métis. And over time, Métis become Mati. We become Mati. We fused our diversity and created something new. But that new thing that we created is grounded in something that is old. When the philosophers talk about dialectics, Karl Marx talk about, the equal of opposites. We've been doing that for a long time. We are a product of dialectics. We are a product of that fusion, what we call the creolization. But it's a creolization that has a base. So there is African creolization, and our Indian brothers and sisters who came They came from different religions, as you know. Some of our Indian comrades, some are Muslims, some are Hindus, some have become Christianized, um, uh, uh, and so forth, and other religions. But once they got to the Caribbean, once they got to Guyana, they became Indians. Indians not as a nationality, country India. They became Indians as an ethnicity. As an ethnicity. So the Indian Hindu, the Indian Muslim, the Indian Christian, they find a common ground because here they are in a strange land. And in this strange land, they are measuring themselves not against each other, but against the Africans and the indigenous people and the Portuguese and the Chinese. And they develop an Indianness in the same way that we developed an Africanness. And part of our little problem in Guyana is that we have been trying to build a nation minus our Indianness, our Africanness, our indigenousness, our Portugueseness, our Chineseness. And we have failed. We have failed. We try to build what you call a false ripe unity. Rather than allow our diversity to evolve, we try to impose, one nation, one destiny. It should be many nations aspiring to a single destiny. Many nations, because that's what we are. One nation, one destiny is aspirational. Nothing is wrong with it. It is aspirational. We aspire. We aspire to be a single nation of people. A nation has two meanings. There's a civic nation, the nation state. Guyana is a nation state. So when we say the Guyanese nation, we're talking about a people who share the same geographical space, same constitution, same national anthem. There's that nation. But then there's the cultural nation, which is not about a state. That as an African in Guyana, I have more in common with an African in Trinidad, and an African in Jamaica, and an African in America, and an African in England than I have with an Indian in Guyana. What I share with that African nation around the world is a common heritage. What I share with Indians and Chinese and Portuguese, what we share is a nation state, a geographical space. What I share with the African in America, the African in England, the African in Nigeria, is a cultural space that goes beyond borders. And so nation has two meanings. Sometimes we conflate the two. That is why perhaps the second song we would sing in an African tradition would be calling the nation. Nation, where you there? Nation, where you there? Nation, where them there? Nation, where them there? Nation, where them there? You call on the nation. You call on the African nation. And when we talk about nation there, we're talking about the culture. Nation, where them there? We call on the nation. The cultural nation. Whether you're Congo, whether you're Yoruba, you call on the nation. Where them nation there? Nation, where them there? All of we are one generation. Congo nation, the highest nation. Tanzania, Mozambique, and Zambia, all of we are one generation. Nation are where them there, nation are where them there, nation are where them there, nation are where them there. All of we are one generation, nation are where you there. You call on the cultural nation. That's a different nation from Guyanese nation. And so therefore, when we're talking about unity, we have to talk about unity at different levels of unity. It's hypocritical to talk about a Guyanese unity without an Indian unity, or an African unity, or an indigenous people unity, or Chinese and Portuguese. And I think that's where we get ourselves mixed up and tangled up. And it affects African people more than others, because Indian people, because they came here beginning in 1838, they came here as quote unquote free people, or people who were not enslaved. So they quickly developed that Indian nation, the fusion of the Indian Muslim, Indian Chinese, Indian Hindu, Indian Christian, and they developed that Indianness. And they did that outside of the slave plantation. We Africans had to develop our Africanness on the plantation, a plantation that did not want Africanness. One of the things that the slave owners were very sensitive to is that they didn't put people of the same tribe on a plantation. A slave owner went to buy quote-unquote slaves. He would buy one Yoruba, one Koromanti, one Akan. He would never buy 10 Akan, because they figured out over time that if these people all came from the same tribe and you put them on the same plantation, they're going to speak the same language. They're speaking the same language, they're going to communicate, and they're going to overthrow slavery quick time. So they split us up, but what they didn't cater for, that although we were from different tribes, we were from similar heritage. And so we quickly created new languages. We created this Creolese, what we just look down upon, is the language that came out of that experience. It's Creolese is resistance language and freedom language. We didn't free ourselves in English, you know. We didn't resist we couldn't resist with English, because that's the slave master language. You're gonna hear what we're saying, you're gonna understand we. So we had to create this new language that we call Creolese, that we should be teaching in schools. Because as children, that's the first language we learn. We learn Creolese before we learn English. So Creolese is really the language of resistance, ultimately the language of freedom. Back in the border, the Creolese is a fusion of English and African languages, and then, you know, the indigenous people put in their indigenous language to it, and then Indian people came and they put in their spin on it. So whereas black man says sedong, Indian says sedonk. Same all too. Indian people say sedonk. Black man says sedong. Same. The language of resistance. If I have anything to do with education going forward, Creolese will be taught in school. I'm giving you all notice early. Creolese will be taught in school. I think if our children have a greater sense of Creolese, they will connect to English. You see, the same sentence construction. Me been there. Me been there. I was there. Same construction, just different words. So our children are not doing well in English in school. And it had nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with them that they're not doing well in English. English is their second language. English is our second language. Our first language is Creolese. And I think unlocking that mystery as to why we are not doing well in English, it ain't got nothing to do with all them kind of story we talking about. It is just not our first language. But there is a reason that the colonial people didn't want Creolese to be taught in school. They got their own Creolese, you know, their Cockney and all kind of thing. When you go in the inner city in England, they got their own Creolese story going on there. But they suppress our Creole because it is the language of resistance. And the wisdom that is located in the Creole language, the Creolese language, is phenomenal. Phenomenal. And there are persons in Guyana, Professor Charlene Wilkinson, Dr. Imhoff, Janice Imhoff, medical doctor. They're the people who are pushing that thing. And the middle classes are resisting it. And I think this PPP government will resist. They will do nothing that will empower Africans culturally. You know. Although Indians speak Creolese today, they see it as more an African thing. And they are correct that it started with the African experience with Creolese. Indian people didn't bring Creolese from India. They came here when we had created that language. We had created those language, that language. Whether it's in Haiti, they call it French Creole. In Suriname, they call it Dutch Creole. We call it Creolese, which is English Creole, or, you know. And so unity starts with a unity of culture. Unity of culture. That's the basis of unity. It is our cultural connection. And that is why I'm saying to build what is called a Guyanese society, not a Guyanese culture, because we haven't gotten there yet. We are not even a nation in that sense. We are a pre-nation as Guyanese. The nation that is developed is the indigenous nation, the African nation, the Indian nation, and to some extent the Chinese and Portuguese nation. Those are the developed nationalities. Guyana is a pre-nation. We haven't gotten to that point where we have fused Indian and African and Amerindian into a single culture. Partly because the Indian elites are resisting creolization into a West Indianness. They see West Indianness as anti-India. Dr. Jagan kept Guyana out of the Federation, the West Indies Federation, 1958 to 1962. He said that Indians would be a minority in the West Indian nation. A minority, and he kept Guyana out. Guyana was not part of the West Indies Federation. That's why we're not part of the University of the West Indies, for example. And that caused a second split in it. That's why people like Guyana and Martin Carter and Rory Westbus and them, they left in a second split in 1956. Because, as Guyana said, Dr. Jagan has lost confidence in the African executives of the party. That Dr. Jagan turned away from a West Indian Federation because he felt it was too black, too African. And he embraced the Indian bourgeoisie in Guyana, the C.R. Jacobs, the Edward Biaris, brought them into his cabinet. Biari was his finance minister. This communist, this working class leader, and a capitalist, as his finance minister, C.R. Jacobs and all them, these are big Indian bourgeoisie people in a communist government. Are you going to figure it out? Cementing the unity of Indians after the split. Bringing together the Indian Christian, the Indian Hindus, the Indian Muslim under an Indian banner, an Indian cultural banner with political ramifications. Burnham, who was more than Biari and C.R. Jacobs and Balram Singh Rai, was socialized as the devil among Indians. And these Indian bourgeoisie, Indian landowners, Indian capitalists were seen as more palatable to the Indian socialists in the PPP. Develop an Indian unity. I was on the radio years ago in Washington, D.C. Can't remember what I was saying, but I obviously was talking part of the story and not the full story. And Sir John Carter, on down the old D.C., well, I don't think he got on too far, but he got my number. And he called me, you know, very Afro-Saxon. Hello. Yes, hello. This is John Carter, Sir John. Yes. I heard you on the radio talking about politics in the 1950s, and I would like to have an audience with you. Whereby then, me trimmed in a little bit because this is John Carter, Sir John Carter. So I say, yes, Sir John, I would like to talk with you, and we arranged. And I went there, and we had tea. The first time me going to tea. Me come from boxing. Tea away you drink in the morning for tea. Because remember, we not said breakfast. Tea for tea. And tea for dinner. Remember, you said tea, breakfast, and dinner. And you went there and meet the film star wife. And he sat me down and he said, he told me the story of the Indian unity that Jagan pulled together. And he said C.L.R. James was visiting Guyana and holding some lectures. And C.L.R. James asked them if they don't see the unification of the Indians. And so John Carter had a party named the UDP, middle class people, redskin, Urbane, Afro-Saxon, LCP, League of Colored People. And they were opposed to Burnham. Burnham had the PPP Burnhamite, which later became the PNC. And it's CLR James who brought them together. And Guyana, who had just left the PPP. And that became the basis of the PNC. It was the black bourgeoisie, the black middle class led by John Carter, the black urban lower middle class and urban working class led by Burnham, and the rural working class led by Guyana. That was the early PNC. That was the early PNC. Guyana wasn't there at the founding of the party. He joined shortly after, became vice chairman and later general secretary. Peter de Geer was supposed to be in that mix, but he opted out. We would learn later he opted out for racial reasons. The point I am making is that we have to understand that unity begins first and foremost among the subgroups in the society. You can't talk about the Guyanese unity and you don't have unity among African people or unity among Indian people or Amerindian people. Amerindian people are different tribes too. Wapishianas and Makushis and Waiwai and Arawaks, and I don't think the Caribs were too much down this side. But today we are calling them indigenous people, but they are different tribes. They're different tribes. And so what you're seeing today is a concerted effort to break up African unity in Guyana. Because people think that it's easy to do that. And to break up African unity, what you do is you break up African morale. And get African people to talk about a Guyanese unity that is bereft of an African unity. And that's the danger we face in the present Guyana. When Irfan and the PPP are talking about one Guyana, they're talking about a stratified Guyana with Indians at the top and Africans at the bottom. That's what, it's one Guyana, but it's not a one of equals. It's one Guyana. But it's not a one Guyana based on equality. And that is what we African people, we Amerindian people, have to be very careful about. That what the PPP is busy constructing is a stratified society with Indians at the top. Our society has always been stratified. White people at the top, Portuguese and Chinese just below them, African, Indian, and Amerindian at the bottom. And what the PPP is trying to do is to reorder that and to put the Indian at the top and the African at the bottom. And they're doing it under the guise of one Guyana. And we have to be very careful about that. Especially our politicians. Black politicians are, I am one of them. So, as a critique of myself, we are too much into forms and not substance. We're too much into forms, We take a look at Muhammad are quarreling. Muhammad Irfan Ali and T. Muhammad, they're quarreling. And we Africans watching the people and say, Lord God, we go Muhammad and PPP. You all will find out, yeah? You all will find out. The PPP made the Mohammeds what they are. And you all never forget that. They're quarreling. They're quarreling because of the contradictions. The PPP, as I said last night, the PPP has created a new urban Indian middle class. A new urban Indian middle class, represented by the Mohammeds and others. These are Indian people who are flush with money. Lil buys them in the 20s and 30s with billions of dollars. It's a new class that the PPP has created. And part of the fallout you're seeing with them and the Mohammed is that the PPP as the political party obviously want to control that class. But you see, when classes are formed, they develop their own autonomy. So the Mohammeds and members of that Indian urban rich class, BK and all of them, they belong to that Indian merchant class. It's a new class. And they're, as BK said, they're PPP. But the thing with when you're a class of people with that amount of money, you develop a sense of autonomy. So what you have there is a quarrel between the political class and the economic class. The Indian political class and the Indian economic class. The PPP has become, as Transparency International said, the PPP has become prisoner to that Indian merchant class. And what I'm trying to say here tonight is that it's not now. Jagan started that relationship in the late 1950s between the Indian political class and the Indian bourgeoisie class. It's not what Jagdi and them are doing now is nothing new. Jagan started it. Jagan brought in Bihari and Jacobs and Balram Singh Rai and them 70 years ago. So you all don't believe this new class formation is new. And that quarrel between Mohammed and black people putting them out in. All you Balram Singh Rai and Bihari and C.R. Jacobs in the original PPP with Jagan and Burnham and Sidney King and Martin King, that Indian bourgeoisie class stayed far from it. They used to curse Jagan. One of them, the name Daniel Debidin, he used to use Apanjat against Jagan. They used to curse Jagan. But once the black man then left the PPP, that Indian bourgeoisie class who used to curse Jagan embraced them and called them patriotic Guyanese. Are you going to learn in Guyana, black man? Are you going to learn? History does not lie. It's a family quarrel, this Mohammed and thing. No, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes family does quarrel and it could help the other side. When Nagamutu and Jack Dio they quarreled and Nagamutu walked out and said, I'm done with you. He came over to the AFC, bring some votes to the AFC. They were able to join those votes with the APNU and we were able to win government. But you have to be very careful not believing that this spat between the Mohammeds and the Mohammeds, Muhammad Orphan Ali and the Mohammeds, is some deep, irreparable thing. Yes, it could get to the point, but you all would be foolish to believe that they're not Indians who are mediating right now between the PPP and the Mohammeds. We will be foolish if we don't think that is happening. And for some of us black people to throw to pin our electoral victory on this split between them is foolish. History don't lie. And politicians just look you with a straight face and tell part of the story. I watched Jack Dio the other day cussing Aubrey Norton. Say Aubrey Norton disrespect, what's your name, Amna. And then we treat Amna bad. Jack Dio, cussing Aubrey Norton. When only 20 years ago, 15 years ago, Mistress Jagan, who co-founded the PPP, who was responsible for Jack Dio becoming president, he turned to she when she said he was wrong to take away ads from Starbrook News. He tells you, shut your mouth. She's now a private citizen. And he accosts Aubrey. Say, Aubrey, disrespect. And no. And some of you black man, Aubrey Norton treat you bad and so on. That may be true, but Jack Dio can't, because Jack Dio treat Janet Jagan worse. You all don't get me wrong, I'm not getting into Aubrey and Amna story. I'm just saying that Jack Dio is the last person should be talking about disrespect. He disrespect Janet Jagan more than Aubrey would ever do disrespect Amna. So we have to concentrate on unity within our group. And I'm not talking about a sterile unity, like I said, because we are a diverse people. I grew up as a little boy. I always hear them big people say, black man contrary. Later on, I know what they meant by contrary is that we are not a sterile people. We have diversity of views, diversity of ideas, diversity of approaches. But we've been able to survive slavery, survive colonialism, survive post-colonialism, because we were able to build a unity out of that diversity. The best time for African morale in post-colonial Guyana was when ASCRE and the PNC were united in a relationship. ASCRE, of course, led by Guyana, deeply cultural, very independent, representing the cultural power of the African. Burnham, the PNC, representing the political power of the African. And when the political and cultural power came together, that period between 1964 and 1971, you all check that period and check how African people were able to have a stake in the new independent Guyana. Because the cultural power and the political power were fused. It's no accident that it's Guyana who come up with cooperative republic. It's the culture. You know, cooperatives come out of our culture. Burnham represented the political power of the African. And Guyana represented the cultural power. When you fuse that together, not what we did. Our relationship with Africa and the role we played on the world stage was because the cultural and political power were together. It is Guyana who went to Africa and introduced Burnham to Africans. Here is the point I'm driving at, sisters and brothers. There's a lot of criticism of the PNC today, and I think a lot of those criticisms are justified. There's a lot of criticisms of Aubrey Norton, some justified, some totally unjustified. But the PNC has never, since Burnham, the PPP has never, since that Burnham and Guyana split in 71, the PNC has never been a party that represents all the instincts of the African. Never. They're a political party and they're looking to win elections. It is not that they're unconcerned about the cultural development of Africans. They're not. But that's not their priority. Their priority is to win political power. And so to expect Norton and the PNC to be this model party, I think is a little bit naive. Our best time is when we are able to fuse the different instincts in the African community. 64-71, Ascre PNC. It is the same Ascre PNC base that came back in 2010 and created the APNU. When me and Rupert Rupnarain went to West Bobis, Belladrum, El Dorado, Hope Town, Seafield, etc., them all black people come out with tears in their eyes. Son, thank God for you. And we're not going to choose now between Burnham people and Guyana people, and we come back together. And we were able to win an election. We were helped by breakaway Indians. But you could have had the breakaway Indians if you didn't have the African unity. We could not have won. And so today, we're at that point again. Are we going to go to a pivotal election divided? Or are we going to go united despite our different ideas and our different approaches? We have to have a sense of our own history to understand our own destiny. Some people tell me, well, we win the election in 2000 because of the Indians. And I tell them, we win the 2015 election because of the Africans. We can both say. The Indians who came across couldn't win the election on their own. The Africans who were there couldn't win the election on their own. So both sides. The point is, we don't have a critical mass of Indians. There is not a Moses Nagamutu. Muhammad is not a Moses Nagamutu. He's not. There's always been the Mohammeds in the Indian community. The Biharis, the C.R. Jacobs, the Balram Singh Rais, they've always. Then by so when you see Balram Singh Rai, when you go to see, you walk down like a Finn star. Because apparently he was very handsome and he was Chatri or Brahman or whatever he was. There's always been the Mohammeds in the Indian community. What I'm saying is that black people must not, we cannot, we should not put our destiny in the hands of a little Indian boy. And I may not mean a disrespect to Muhammad. I'm just talking folk language. You can't do that. A people who were brought there in chains in 1627. 2 years from now, going to be 400 years since we come here. And we enjoy what we enjoy to put our future in the hands of a little boy from another race. Are you all crazy? In a racial situation, we didn't make what Guyana is. Guyana is what it is because of, some say, the accident of history. Some say the convergence of historical forces. But in a place where each race is fighting for itself, some of us are walking around the place talking about Muhammad and pinning the hopes of our race who've been there long before Muhammad come on Muhammad. Are you all crazy? Now, if Muhammad and the PPP can quarrel and continue quarrel until Muhammad joined the election and win some Indian votes and help to topple the PPP, I don't have a problem with that. I do not have a problem with that. I would welcome that. But what I'm saying is that we ought not to pin our future on that. That could happen. It could not happen. The certain thing that we have is our vote. That's the thing that we have that is certain. Our vote. Dennis, I am not talking about whether Moses has a love for black people. I know Moses. I would think I know Moses long before you, Dennis. When we used to be taking blows on the streets in Guyana, and we invite the PPP to come to them meeting, the WPA, none of them would come. Moses Nagamut was the only one who used to come, and he used to get tech blows. I have respect for Moses. But the issue here is not whether Moses loves black people. I know that Moses has to have affection for black people. I know a lot of Indians who love black people. My leader, after Walter Rodney died, the de facto leader of the WPA was Rupert Rupnarain. He's my leader. I love him. Rupert get more guard picking in boxing than me. But that's not the point I am making. The point I am making is there is a risk in an ethnically divided society for an entire group to place its destiny in the hands of someone who was created by the other party. Muhammad was created by the PPP. And I'm saying I would love for them to lick down Mati and quarrel, and Muhammad must run on his own and win some Indian votes. That is no secret. I can say that publicly. But we can't put our store for victory in that. We can't. Charity begins at home. Charity begins at home. We have to strengthen. We have to push the envelope. We have to push as far as we can get. 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53. And if Muhammad bring another 6, he carry to 59. We can't push to 45 and say we depending on Muhammad to bring 6 for carry to 51. You are what we are playing with here. You all think Adriana is an exception? Give the PPP 5 more years. We will be fishing Adrianas out of pools every other month. That is what is at stake. We will be picking up dead bodies of little boys in Linden and Golden Grove and Agricola every other month. That's what's staring us in our faces. And we have to start first, that's what Marcus Garvey said. We have to rely on ourselves first. That's what self-reliance is about. There were always sympathizers among whites during slavery. My village, Buxton, is named after Thomas Fowell Buxton, who was a white abolitionist in the British Parliament. And my 4 people, when they set up the village, as a gratitude to him, they named the village after he. Them people in Northbrook, Victoria, they named the village after Queen Victoria because she was the queen at the time of abolition. So there were always whites. Thomas Fowell Buxton, Thomas Clarkson, William Wilberforce. They were the 3 leading abolitionists, white people. They were always there, but we could not rely on them. They had to rely on us, fighting for our freedom, pushing slavery to the edge. In America, there were white people, white abolitionists. But those white abolitionists didn't want black people to join the abolitionist movement. Imagine they have a movement to abolish slavery so that black people can get out of slavery, but they didn't want black people to join them. Now you go figure it out. They are fighting ostensibly for the freedom of Africans, but they don't want Africans to be part of the fight. We have to fight our battle. First, I am sure, very sure, that there are Indians who are trying to make peace between Mohammed and the government. Thank you, Dennis. And Yuri saying Moses was the only one who came when my father died. There you go. I know Moses well. You know, he's a different brother. But the issue is not. Moses is one man and he played his role when the history of this country is written. Moses Nagamutu, as Yuri Westmans is saying, is the only one who come when your father died. And Yuri, the father, was Jagan Secretary, Resource Secretary, White Hat. When you go into Freedom House thing, Yuri, the daddy was there, David Westmans. The uncle was Rory Westmans. And the father died, and Moses is the only one who come. And that one want to cuss Aubrey and say Aubrey didn't go to Amna funeral. After all them years, they're now naming a street in Bel Air after Ramkaran, Baizi Ramkaran. Baizi been there with Dragon since in the PSC days, 1940s. Baizi was Dragon right-hand man. Baizi headed Gawu. He was the deputy leader of the PPP. I doubt whether Arfan Ali know anything about Baizi Ramkaran. Now they're naming a street a street after Ramkaran in Bel Air. None of us perfect. None of us is perfect. But I am saying that you have to start by relying on yourself. On yourself. They've beaten Moses into silence. All the names they call Moses, they cuss me because I say them who striking and going along is like BT. They call Moses worse than like BT. They've beaten that brother into silence. Kemraj does be in the face. So they've not beaten Kemraj into silence. But those people are vicious, those PPP leaders, when it comes to people from their community leaving. And so unity has to be our first step. Have to be. We need as much Indian support as we can. But we have to be realistic. A critical mass of Indians is not going to come over. So when we are planning, we have to plan first and foremost in mobilizing our community. And in a sense, what has happened as a result of the willful murder of this child is that the people themselves have thrown up a new unity. A unity of the black working class, poor class. I don't like to use the word scrapeheads because when we say scrape, we know what we mean. When scrapeheads call themselves scrape, we know what they mean. When the PPP call them scrapers, we know they don't mean what we mean. You heard the one say, if black man want get rich, go to eat, but they must be prepared to work 6 days a week. The private sector man, they must be prepared to work 6 days a week. You all know where they come from. The proverbial, typical, lazy African. You all can get rich, you all come to me, but I got to prepare for work like a slave. That's what he's saying. It's coded language. He may think that he's saying something nice. That come to me and I will get you rich in 6 months or whatever he said. But you got to prepare for work 6 days a week. A slave you talk to. A slave. When the world stopped working 6 days a week and the 5 days work week is now enshrined in law and so on and so forth, you tell black man they must work 6 days. Then people that so high pass us. And that is why I'm saying I will not get out of their faces. Because they're ice past black people. Very, very much ice past black people. Some of them do it knowingly, some of them do it unknowingly. You're talking to people who slave for this country, work sun down to sun up to sun down and beyond 7 days a week. You are telling them now they must come and work for you 6 days a week. You bastardized past us. You bastardized past us. And I'm not allowing that to happen in Guyana. You as past black people to tell them they must come and work 6 days a week for you to get rich. Go to hell. Who are you? And the so-called media and the so-called pundits, they sit down and allow it to slide. It's news. And I don't blame them because they don't, in many cases, our young people don't understand the nuances of race. Because, you know, we have beaten race out of their consciousness. that they're afraid to talk about race because they're afraid that they will be called racist. So they will hear that and don't recognize the racism in it. Because we are a racially illiterate group of people, generally black people. We are getting better now because we are doing it here every night. And this is one program where we're not mincing matters. But a man like that, why don't they go and charge he for terrorism and racial hostility? Why they don't go and... It's arrant, rank racism to be telling Africans they got to work 6 days a week. Me can't say what me want to say. Me can't say what me want to say. Yeah. Me can't say what me want to say. Yeah. But it is that kind of disrespect for the African that we have to find a way to unite. And I hope that my brothers and sisters in the AFC see beyond just politics. The AFC is making good points. They've had bad experience with the PNC. No, they're not lying. They're not lying. We in the WP had worse experience than the AFC. AFC had ministers and they had plenty this and plenty that. They're not lying. I understand the AFC's position. But I'm saying once you get beyond the party and the politics and then you think about the sociology of the country, and you think about what the future holds for people who got their skin color, you got to change your tactic. That is what we are called upon, eh? Unfortunately. Unfortunately. We, in the so-called small parties, we don't have a critical mass of voters. We don't have 15 and 20 seats that we can use to bargain. We don't. We don't. I think we may have more now than we did 5 years ago. Nobody don't poll my party, you know. They don't poll WPA, they don't poll me. Because I think they're frightened what they're going to find out if they poll WPA and poll me. So they don't put us in polls. They do the polls, and the polls show 30% people are undecided. And they don't ask them, you're undecided based on the choices we give you. If we put to you PPP, PNC, AFC, and 30 people say we're undecided, it means 30% of the people don't want PPP, PNC, and AFC. It means they want somebody else and some other party. But they dare not poll people like me. And so they run off with this narrative. Until the country blows up and Mouta Prepre. Some people say Mouta Preke, some people say Mouta Prepre. Nandlal said David Hinds is responsible for what happened. Yeah, he's passed me at a certain level, but what he's acknowledging is that there are other agents of socialization in the society. He's not talking about looting. He knows that I am responsible for looting. He's not talking, he knows I am responsible for looting, but he knows that I and the WPA have played some role in developing consciousness among black people. That is what that is angering him. He knows that me and socialite people go and rob and thief people and so on. He knows that. But he also knows that there are other agents of socialization that dare not do an honest poll in Guyana, they will be shocked. And that is one of the things that we suffer from in Guyana. That there are certain people and certain organizations that are marginalized. Stabrook News don't cover WP at all. They don't cover me. If I write a letter, they won't carry it. I don't know, they're angry with me for something. You know, I don't know. And then they take it out on the WPA. So Stabrook News is out. They don't carry me. Chronicle don't carry WPA unless they want to make mischief. Guyana Times. So of the 4 dailies, only 1 daily covers David Hinds and the WPA. And yet we talk about democratic society. And we talk about democracy. What democracy? When you're stifling certain voices because they don't share your thing. I know why the middle class don't like me. I know. I know why they don't like me. And I know why they don't like the WPA. And they're trying as hard as possible to, as Jadio said, to banish us from Guyana and banish us from politics. They don't like the disturbing presence of people who are conscious and who are prepared not to play around with that consciousness. I mean, people, you look at them, you look at some of these Indian leaders who are not in the PPP, and they start out by saying, I give my condolences to the young family for the tragic death of their daughter, but we can't solve the problem and get to the bottom by digging up roads and behaving bad. This so-and-so is past us. We got to bury our dead. We got to bury we dead every other week. And all you all can say, I give you all my sympathy, but you all must not mourn for your dead. That's in effect what they're telling us. We must not mourn for our dead. Because when we protest, we are mourning. What I am doing here tonight is holding a wake. Every night since that child died, we've been holding wake. This is a wake we are holding here. And they're telling us, they spend half a second giving their condolences to the family, not their condolences to black people in the black community. Their condolences to the family, and then they proceed to tell the family and the black community how they must mourn. Now, you must holler. Now, holler. And that's the hypocrisy that WPA and David Hinds are fighting. And that is why they don't want us anywhere near. And not only the PPP, some in our own opposition camp, because they want to get away with a nicey politics, throw we under the bus, and still come back and say, put the head under the bus, give me the vote. Throw black people under the bus, and still want to look under the bus and say, give me your vote. But you don't throw black people under the bus and get their vote. I'd rather go to jail than to condemn black people for behaviors that are not essential to them, but behaviors, part of which arise out of their condition. I refuse to condemn them. You all jail me. I refuse to condemn Baby Skello. You all jail me. I refuse to condemn that little girl, nurse girl. You all jail me. If we were living in a democratic society in which there was equality, and when people behave bad, You give them the equal treatment. I would be prepared to stick my neck out in public and say, baby Skello, them thing where you write there by in a Catholic. But you can't want to treat you dirty mouth people nice and treat other people, dirty mouth people, differently. Once you do that, then baby Skello is not a dirty mouth. If you can't tell Indian dirty mouth people that they're mouth dirty, but you want to tell baby Skello he mouth dirty, and you want me for joining you, I am not doing that. I am going to clean Skello mouth. We have got to come to our senses in Guyana. And that's why they don't want me around. They don't want the WP around. The Kumogon say talk a simple truth. They have him before the court for a simple truth. That the majority of black people in the army are black people. The majority of people in the army are black people. And the majority of people in the army, in the police who are shooting black people are black people. We gotta work that shit out among ourselves. The majority of the police is black people. And they're the ones who are shooting their brothers and sisters. I am telling you, if there were Indian police going into Indian community and shooting Indian people, first of all, it won't happen. But if it happened, Indian people will put a stop to it the next day. The next day. Black people say we don't want to be called Negroes. Now you use race that since last year when Kidaki lock up. 1 whole year pass, then change it yet. Skello sing about having sex with Lashmi. 40 pandit come out on the road with placard, only 40. The next day they lock Skello up. One side gets the government to act. One side gets the government to act. And the other side, the government oppresses. And I must not say it. I go to bed every night. And I sleep sound. Because a paper like the Stabrook News came into being as a result of the struggles led by the WPA. Some of us went to jail. Some of us lost our lives so that the Stabrook News could be born. And that the Stabrook News today is discriminating against the WPA is the scandal of the century. I don't regret what I did and the sacrifices I made. I don't. But I have to point out to people the hypocrisy in our society. The hypocrisy in our society. And only we can put an end to it. And I'm determined. I'm determined that we'll work together and restore the black man to his equal footing in Guyana, the black woman and the black child. His wake we keep in. We've been keeping wake for the last 3 weeks. We can't bury our dead because of the government. The government is preventing us from burying our dead. That is why my foreparents, when they must sing the Nancy, they said, Nancy, Tory. Nancy, Tory. A Tory and Tory make all our ras there. And at the Tory, we are keeping watch every night. Every night are we keeping we wake. Ravi Pasram say you is a racist. Ravi Pasram, you can barely spell racist. I come from an African tribe, Ravi. We never had caste in Africa. You come, if your name thing, you come from a culture of caste. Caste is the highest form of racism. Go figure out who's racist and who's not racist. I come from a culture that don't have caste. I would just get chatri and Brahmin and Dalits and untouchable. They're not untouchable in African culture. They're untouchable in the culture that you come from. Me every day you. I don't worry sometimes, but me every day you. Watch yourself in the mirror and you will see R-A-C-I-S-T from your head to your toe. And you get the damn thing to come here and call black people racist. You should be saying thanks to black people. That when they haul your foreparents from India, thanks to black people, your foreparents could come here as free people, not as slaves. Go down your knees and say thanks, David Hines. That's what you should say. David Hines, I should thank you, your kind, for protecting my kind. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in our sight here tonight. Are we happy with them, you know? Are we happy with them? Because we have history on our side. We have history on our side. There's a lot that we, black people, should be thankful to the indigenous people for. And the Indian people for, and Chinese and Portuguese. But there is also a lot those groups should be thankful to us for. And they don't say thanks to us. They cuss we blue, black every day. But me happy with you. Because cuss are you back. And I don't care if it offend you all and offend uppity black people. Because the uppity black people just cuss you all when they're drinking the whiskey. They must cuss at you. They just don't do it in public. Lad. Our Guyana. But we shall overcome. We shall overcome. I'll see you all tomorrow night. You go here. Are you going to see the big thing in Chronicle tomorrow? David Hines cusses Indian people and say they're racist. Me take a screenshot. Ravi Ramsaram. You is a racist. You is a racist. That's all that can come out of these people's mouth. We are saviors. We are builders. We are human beings. We have shielded other groups, including yours. I'll see you all tomorrow night. Same time, same place. For another edition of Politics 101.